Either you got to know everything or adhere to the God who does know all things.
First of all, what's wrong with appealing to absurdity?
Well, thank you, guys. That leads me into the next question is, what type of either stigma or labels are thought of when pastors think about open air preaching or / open air evangelism? Let's just talk about the elephant that's in the room. What is, when pastors talk shop, what do they think about the evangelists out there?
Yeah, what do you do with evangelists? I've been a part of some of those conversations, and it's like evangelists are so individualistic that they're kind of they isolate themselves, and in a sense they come across as going rogue. Mm-hmm. And though we don't believe that's necessarily the case in every situation, there's a lack of being rooted in the local church context. Mm-hmm. And as if the evangelist is to do this separate kind of parachurch ministry, mm-hmm. and the church is left to deal with, what do we do with this person? And the evangelist is, coming from the perspective, I don't know how to fit in, mm-hmm. because the church is not a place where I can grow and flourish and use the gifts and the passion that God has given me. Mm-hmm. So what do you do with these two tensions?
Yeah, I love where you're going there, Anthony, because Ephesians 4 tells us that God gives gift to men, and He gives some to be pastors, teachers, evangelists, the prophets and apostles as well. But they're all to equip the saints for the work of ministry, for the building of the body. So I love that, just that it's all of us working together to see God move a people together to be His witnesses. So I think that is probably one of the maybe misperceptions, or even at times maybe proper perceptions of, the kind of evangelists over here, and they're just kind of these crazy people who do anything for Jesus. Mm. And then it's like that's their job, but that's not our job. But I love the focus of GGM to say we want to equip the church and partner with churches out of our local church to see this responsibility, taken on by all.
Amen. I want to read that text that you were talking about, Tanner. It's in Ephesians 4. And Pastor Milione, this is the first verse he took me to when I wanted the elders to look at my life at Open Door. And it says this: He gave some as apostles, some as prophets, some as evangelists, and some as pastors and teachers. Any other comments, Wes, that you want?
Yeah, I mean, when I think there's several things to talk about, I think in terms of the evangelist and the role of that, or the vocation of the evangelist within the life of the church, the difficulty is that we know what the qualifications of a pastor are, we know what the qualifications of a deacon are, we don't know what the qualifications of evangelists are. But one of the things that's often overlooked, and this is something that's been a challenge to me, when I was ordained, Pastor Dwayne actually was part of the ordaining ceremony, preached a message, and challenged us to do as a pastor, to do the work of an evangelist. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing we do know, right? We that at the minimum, pastors have that calling. Mm-hmm. It's part of their vocation. In addition to the teaching, in addition to prayer, is to be an evangelist. That's good. And of course, we're equipping others to join in that work, and the gospel belongs to the entire church and the whole world. But I think also, the problem is that when it comes to evangelistic type ministry, and as we're thinking of open air ministry in particularly, there is kind of a negative stigma to that particular type of ministry, and I know you're asking that kind of question. What do most pastors think about it? And what I used to think about, and I've shared some of this with you. Mm-hmm. I've been in these discussions like, is it effective? Are we offending people? Are we pushing people away? Is it a positive witness? Is it a negative witness? Mm-hmm. Is this the type of communication that will actually is a good medium for the gospel? How does that medium itself affect the gospel? And so I had all these crazy discussions, and myself was kind of like, okay, I don't know. I mean, I'm not against it. Mm-hmm. But maybe if it's done well, and I've always thought that you've done it well. Even before, when I was having these conversations in the side, I remember going out with you. We went to Raleigh one time, and I was like, man, if you're going to do it, this is how you do it. Mm-hmm. But over time, my thoughts have changed. And especially in I feel like, particularly in our context, it's highly effective. And the way in which we've been able to practice it within the context of a local church is that, so there's someone preaching, and then you have people sharing the gospel.
Amen.
I mean, so for an hour, 2 hours, I've had some of the most fruitful gospel conversations I've ever had during this while someone's preaching. And sometimes when you're doing the preaching, of course, it's different. You have to function differently. But the church working together, you are engaging people broadly. Some people stop and listen and be on every word. And let them, right? And you've instructed people to do that. But then there's other people. It's just you're in a context where if you're not the one preaching, you feel confidence because the gospel is being proclaimed. You're not standing out as far as that guy's standing out, right?
Yeah. That's right.
So you can go out and you can share the gospel, and they're already kind of what's going on here? They're kind of weirded out. And you said that this morning. You used the awkwardness for the sake of the gospel. It's kind of fun, and that's a perfect context. So there's something weird going here. Tell me what's going on.
Right.
Boom, there you go. There's the gospel.
Yeah.
So I'm actually on the total other side. I think when done rightly, when done in conjunction with the overall mission of the church, I think it's a very healthy thing to do.
Well, awesome. Any other closing comments before we get into the other question, guys? Okay.